Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
I am.
Awesome. Today we're tackling Romeo and Juliet, but don't worry, this isn't going to be your typical high school English class recap.
Definitely not.
We're going way beyond the surface to really uncover some fascinating things about Romeo.
Absolutely. We're diving deep into Romeo's character,
Yeah.
really peeling back those layers to understand this iconic lover.
Okay, so everyone knows this story, right?
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah.
star-crossed lovers, but
But there's so much more to him
so much more.
than just the name and that tragic ending.
Exactly.
And you know what's really interesting is that Romeo starts off as this classic lovesick character.
Totally.
Totally heartbroken over Rosalind, spouting all this dramatic poetry,
Yeah.
all these sighs. We've got this fantastic character analysis from PMT Education that really highlights this.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, he is totally consumed by Rosalind at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you remember when he says that line, she is rich in beauty, only poor that when she dies, with beauty dies her store.
Yep.
It's just so over the top.
It is.
He's like the stereotypical lovesick teenager. But it does make you wonder, is this real love or is it just like infatuation?
Right. Yeah, that is a really great question. And it gets at the heart of what makes Shakespeare so brilliant.
Yeah.
Is he playing with our expectations? Is he like intentionally setting us up with this sort of over-the-top, what we call like a Petrarchan lover?
Petrarchan lover. What's
Well,
that?
right. Not everyone is, fluent in Shakespearean terminology.
Right.
So basically the term comes from this Italian poet, Petrarch. And he was famous for his sonnets all about like unattainable love and this like deep longing.
Okay.
So when we say Romeo is a Petrarchan lover,
Yeah.
we're saying he fits that classic mold, passionate, melancholic, completely devoted to this like idealized woman.
Okay. So he's stuck in this dramatic, almost like performative love.
Yeah, exactly.
But then Juliet walks in.
And bam.
Everything changes.
It really does. The shift in Romeo is, it's drastic.
Yeah.
When he meets Juliet, his language, even his actions, they become so much more intense. He goes from just pining away to full-blown passion.
And their first encounter, it's pretty remarkable. It's written as a sonnet, isn't it?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Shakespeare chose that sonnet structure for their first meeting.
Yeah.
A form that's all about romantic themes.
Oh, yeah.
Intricate rhyme schemes. Is like he's intentionally highlighting the depth of their connection from the very start.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way Romeo describes Juliet, too, it's not just romantic. It's almost like religious.
Right.
He compares her to like divine figures and stars and
It's very vivid imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great observation, actually. Shakespeare intentionally wove that religious imagery into Romeo's lines, drawing this parallel between, like, romantic love and religious devotion.
it makes you think about like, what is he saying about the power of love?
Right. Exactly.
It's like he's elevating Juliet to this like almost sacred level. It makes their connection seem even more powerful.
Yeah.
And almost like destined. But speaking of Romeo's character, though,
Yeah.
he's not just a love-struck teenager.
No, he's not.
He actually challenges some of those traditional ideas about masculinity,
Oh, why?
especially for Elizabethan England.
Oh, you are so right. Romeo's character really pushes against those rigid societal norms. I mean, think about when he refuses to duel Tybalt.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Juliet's cousin.
Yeah.
I remember that. He even calls himself effeminate because of Juliet.
He does.
Like, thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened valor's steel. It's such a bold thing to say. He's basically saying love has, like, softened him.
Absolutely. And that was radical for Shakespeare's audience.
Wow.
To prioritize love over violence, to be vulnerable, to admit his feelings have changed him.
Yeah, it's like going against everything that they thought about what it meant to be a man.
Yeah, directly challenging that.
It's like Shakespeare's using Romeo to question these super ingrained social expectations.
It really is.
Like, what is he trying to say about all those pressures on men in this society that's all about honor and violence?
That's a fantastic question. And, it's something we can definitely explore as we dig deeper into Romeo.
Yeah, and into his relationships, too.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got a lot more to unpack here.
We do.
Okay, so we've talked about Romeo and masculinity, but
Yeah.
I want to go back to the women in his life for a second.
Oh, yeah, good point.
It's really interesting, like, how Shakespeare presents these
Yeah.
two very distinct types of love for Romeo.
Right. You've got Rosalind on one hand, who, even though he never actually, meet her in the play,
Right.
she represents this idealized, almost unattainable love.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of love that fuels all of Romeo's early poetry and all those like really passionate but unrequited feelings.
Yeah. 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 It's like she's more of the symbol than
Yeah.
an actual character almost.
Yeah.
She's like the reason for Romeo's lovesick persona
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Look
That
at it.
Juliet comes along and
Bam. Everything changes.
and the whole dynamic shifts. With
Yeah.
Rosaline, it was all like longing and unfulfilled desire.
Right.
But Juliet, it's different.
Yeah.
The love is reciprocated, it's passionate, and it like drives Romeo to actually do things,
Yes.
take risks, things he never would have considered before.
It makes you wonder if Shakespeare was trying to highlight like the difference between infatuation
Oh, totally.
and true love.
Yeah, I think so.
And with those two relationships.
I think that's a really compelling interpretation for sure. I mean, Shakespeare, he was the master of exploring like all the complexities
Yeah.
of human emotion.
Yeah.
And, the way he portrays Romeo's feelings
Yeah.
for Rosaline and then Juliet really adds, so much.
Yeah. How we understand Romeo.
Definitely. And speaking of relationships, we can't forget about his friendships.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Mercutio
Oh, yeah.
seems to have a big influence on Romeo.
Absolutely. Mercutio is such a vibrant character, quick-witted,
Yeah.
cynical, and he's this like total opposite
Right.
foil to Romeo's romantic idealism.
Right.
So their friendship is like fascinating because they represent these two like contrasting
Yeah.
worldviews.
It's like Mercutio's all logic
Yes.
and reason, and Romeo's like all heart,
Exactly.
even if it gets him into trouble.
Right. And it does often.
True.
But you can tell that despite their differences, they like genuinely care about each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Remember that speech, that long speech Mercutio gives about Queen Mab?
Oh, yeah. The fairy's midwife, right?
Yes. He's using humor, and a little bit of cynicism to like try and bring Romeo out of his like lovesick despair over Rosaline.
Right. But then when Tybalt kills Mercutio,
Oh.
Romeo's reaction, it's like so intense.
It is.
He goes from grieving for his friend
Yeah.
to like wanting revenge instantly.
Yeah. That scene is it's such a turning point in the play.
Yeah.
It shows how like deeply loyal Romeo is to his friends, and it also highlights how Shakespeare is like playing with that idea of masculinity again.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Romeo, who like, initially resisted the violence
Yeah.
because of Juliet, now he feels like he has to
Yeah.
avenge his friend.
It's like he's stuck between these two forces.
Yeah.
His love for Juliet
Right.
and then the pressure to like be a man
Yes.
and take revenge.
Exactly. That internal conflict is
Yeah.
really at the heart of Romeo's like character arc.
Yeah.
He's always wrestling with his emotions, trying to navigate these societal expectations and ultimately making choices that have like
Yeah.
tragic consequences.
Okay, so we've got these powerful relationships influencing Romeo. Love for Juliet, his friendship with Mercutio, the rivalry with Tybalt.
Yeah.
And it's all tangled up with these big themes of love,
Yes.
fate, masculinity.
Right. And to like really appreciate the depth of those themes,
Yeah.
we need to think about the historical and social context
Oh,
that
yeah.
Shakespeare was writing in,
Right.
Like Romeo and Juliet wasn't just entertainment, it was a reflection of Elizabethan England. Their values, their anxieties, their beliefs.
So are you saying we need to put on our history hats,
Maybe
travel back in time to really understand Romeo?
a little bit.
I'm game if you are. Okay, so time travel it is. Back to Elizabethan England. What should we be looking for
Right.
in this time that might help us understand Romeo better?
Well, first, just imagine like a world where everything is about social hierarchy. Like your family name, your place in society, that determined pretty much everything.
So like those high school cliques,
Yes.
but way worse.
Exactly. And those social pressures, oh man, they were like immense.
Oh.
Huge emphasis on honor and reputation,
Okay.
especially for men.
Gotcha.
And any insult, like any little thing could lead to a duel, even death.
Oh, wow. So like when Romeo refuses to fight Tybalt,
Yes.
that would have been a huge deal.
It would have been, he's like risking his reputation,
Yeah.
even his life, to go against those expectations.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a powerful statement about how strong love can be, and how it can challenge even the most like deeply held social norms.
Right.
But there's another layer here too. Remember we were talking about the Italian influence?
Oh, yeah. Elizabethan England loved all things Italian,
Yeah.
right?
Clothes, art, sword fighting,
Yeah, yeah.
and that like fascination
Yeah.
is totally woven into Romeo and Juliet too.
Okay.
Like the play is set in Italy,
Yeah.
but it's really like holding up a mirror to
Yeah.
England and their anxieties, desires, influences.
So Romeo, even though he's like this fictional character,
Right.
in Italy, he's really a product of Shakespeare's time and place.
Exactly. And that makes him even more complex, don't you think?
For sure. For sure.
Like think about when Romeo isolates himself. You know, he's pining over Rosaline.
Oh, yeah.
All those dramatic sighs and poems.
Yeah.
Classic Petrarchan lover, right?
Yes.
Super popular in England, thanks to,
Right.
the Italian influence.
So Shakespeare's using this like literary trend
Yes.
to shape Romeo in the beginning.
Yeah. But then he like breaks free from that when he meets Juliet.
He does.
He becomes more like active,
Yeah.
more willing to like challenge things.
And ultimately more
Yeah.
tragic.
And that defiance, that willingness to go against like what everyone expects, that would have been, I don't know, both thrilling and terrifying for an audience back then. They would understood the pressure on Romeo.
Right.
The
Yeah.
risks he's taking.
And the consequences.
Yes.
It's amazing how Shakespeare can combine all of that,
Yeah.
like those historical and social things,
I know.
to make this like timeless story.
It's a testament to how brilliant he was, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
there's one more element we need to talk about, I think, and that's religion.
Oh, right.
England at the time was going through a lot of religious upheaval.
Right.
Shifting from Catholicism to Protestantism. And Shakespeare kind of reflects that throughout the play.
Now that you mention it, I remember all those times when Romeo compares Juliet
Yeah.
to the sun and like stars and
Yeah.
how he talks about love. It's like almost
Yeah.
spiritual.
Yes. It's like love for Romeo becomes this religion, this force
Yeah.
that goes beyond all the rules and rivalries,
Yeah.
which is a powerful concept, especially when society is dealing with all this religious change.
Right. Which makes his suicide
Oh, yeah.
even more tragic.
Yeah.
He's trying to defy fate
Right.
to be with Juliet, but
But is he? Is he really escaping? Or is he giving into it?
I don't know.
It's a question that people have been like thinking about for centuries.
I know.
Shakespeare makes us think about fate, about love, about, the choices we make.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I mean, we started with Romeo as just this like romantic hero. And now we see him as this complex
Yes.
product of his time,
Yeah.
caught between love and duty and fate.
And that's the beauty of exploring literature. We find these hidden layers, we make connections, we understand ourselves and the world a little bit better.
So what does all this mean for you, dear listener?
Right.
When you're reading Romeo and Juliet, or really any book, remember that the characters,
Yeah.
they're shaped by their time and place.
Absolutely. And think about how that influences their choices, what they believe, and
Yeah.
ultimately their fate.
Think about Romeo defying the stars.
Did he really break free, or did he just prove how powerful fate is? Keep those questions in mind as you keep exploring literature. There's always more to discover, more to understand, more to learn.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive, so stay tuned. Until then, happy reading